So, welcome everybody, Sports Snobs. You guys know us by now. If you're watching this, you probably watched a couple of our episodes. This is episode 3 of our full length. We had 2 sports picks. I'm Kaz. My co-host is Pat. You can see our Instagram and our Twitter handles below. So, like us, follow us, um, share our podcast, subscribe to it, do everything. But we want to be a little bit quicker now. That's one of the feedback that I've heard from people. I don't know about you, Pat. So let's get right into our Week 9 recap. Um, the NFC West. When we started our podcast, we both said NFC West, strongest division. Now, what do you think? Are they even a good conference? Where's your thoughts on that?
So it was a bad week, right? It was a weird week, but a bad week for the NFC West, as you mentioned. I still think that they are one of the better divisions. I do hesitate now when I think of them as the best division in football. Another division that's coming to mind now, and probably the benefit of having 2 teams on a bye week this past week, but I think of the AFC North. And in my head, I think, how would I define the best division in football? And I think the easiest way to do it would be head to head, right? Taking each team and seeing how they would fare up against one another. And I think it's pretty safe to say, based on this current season, the Steelers would likely beat each team in the NFC West, right? And then you look at the Ravens, and the only game I think that they may struggle with, just because their offense isn't as prolific as the Seahawks, is the Seahawks. I think defensively they would play well. I just think they'd have a hard time hanging with the Seahawks offense, but I do think that would be a good game. And right there, you find yourself saying, okay, second place team AFC North, first place team NFC West, and they're kind of almost on equal ground. So after that, you have the Browns, which, listen, I'm not jumping on the Browns bandwagon by any means, but their offense is nothing to discount. They could score points like the Seahawks could score points potentially. And then you have the Bengals, who are the last team, and the Bengals are up and coming. So do I think the Bengals can beat the 49ers? They probably can right now. The 49ers have, 5 starters between defense and offense. I think when you run it down, I think the AFC North has kind of taken the lead on the best division in football.
So going back to the original question of the NFC West, Seattle, yeah, they are great, but guess what? They do not have a defense. They have to play perfect on offense every week. Perfect, which is great for my fantasy team because I have half of their offensive weapons, but their defense can't stop anybody. San Fran, no, they're not good. They're not good. They have injuries, they have everything, but they're not good. Um, Arizona. I mean, Arizona beat Seattle and then they lost to the Dolphins. Yes, I'm repping the Dolphins right now. I got it on. Chris, that's a shout out to you. You said they're not my team, but they are my team. But I mean, Seattle is so good offensively, but so bad defensively. Your whole Browns could compete with them offensively. No Odell, Chubb maybe coming back. Baker Mayfield competing with Russell Wilson? Are you crazy, dude? You that no. There is no way. I will give you the Steelers. I will give you the Ravens competing in that division. But Burrow is playing phenomenal. No way does any team besides the Ravens or the Steelers, if Ben doesn't have COVID, beat an NFC West team. Steelers, Ravens can do it because of their defense against Seattle. Anybody else in that division? I mean, the Rams, they didn't lose this week, but they didn't play. But no, I'm not feeling it. So next topic, everybody's debating since Brady decided to go to Tampa Bay. Was it Brady or Belichick that got the job done at the Patriots? Who do you think it was? Who do you think is the mastermind behind that whole thing?
It's too soon. It's too soon to say.
It's 9 weeks, dude. It's 9
It's
weeks. It's not too soon.
9 weeks. How long did Tom Brady play under Bill Belichick? 17 years? How can you take 17 years of him playing under Bill Belichick and the Patriots dominating every team they played in the AFC, and then take 9 weeks of them playing in the NFC South and be able to judge it one way or the other? I will say that it looks like so far in the 9 weeks that your immediate reaction would be, oh, it was Brady, right? They had a terrible loss this week. It was absolutely horrific. But their record is still, what is it, 6-3? Yeah, 6-3. And the Patriots barely beat the Jets. So you could say, based on right now, and some recency bias, obviously, that the Bucks and Tom Brady was the secret ingredient or the main ingredient. But the Patriots had how many opt-outs before the season? They had how many injuries over the last few weeks? I think that the team we saw against the Jets is not a fair representation of who the Patriots really are. I don't think that they're better than the Bills, and I don't think they would win the division if they were completely healthy. But I think they would have a similar record, closer record as to what the Bucks have right now, because the Bucks look like a hot mess when they're playing teams that have an average defense.
See, what I'm going to say is it wasn't Brady, it wasn't Belichick, it was the combination, right? So Brady is now playing with wide receivers, tight ends, options that he's never had before. He had Randy Moss at the end of his career, but he's got 3 wide receivers with Antonio Brown now, Scotty Miller. Shout out to Scott Miller. That's a great number 4. That's an Edelman. He's never had options like this. The tight ends he has. Now, Tampa Bay this week, 5 rushing plays, and one of them was a quarterback kneel down. They had 5 rushing plays for 8 yards. So that's disgusting. I don't care how much you're losing by. I don't care anything. You got 3 running backs legitimately on that team, 3 running backs that can get you 40 yards. And you had 5 running plays.
On that note, just real quick, if you think that sentence right there, that they have 3 running backs who are legit like starters, right? For most teams, if you took each of them and placed them on another team, they probably start. Look what Belichick's done with undrafted running backs, recycled running backs in the last years of their career. No, I know, but what I'm saying is, if you put Belichick with a similar team, I mean, they're probably undefeated.
But that's why I say that they need each other, because Brady without Belichick is not going to win. Belichick without Brady is not going to win. He has the same running backs he had last year. He doesn't have Brady. He has most of the same wide receivers he had last year. He doesn't have Brady. He's this mastermind that comes up with these great game plans. His great game plan last night was barely beat the Jets with Cam Newton rushing for 2 rushing touchdowns. It doesn't feel like he can do it without Brady, and it doesn't feel like Brady can do it without him. I think they need both of each other. But otherwise, in the NFL, what did you think was the most exciting game of Week 9?
There were 2 games. I'm probably going to go the unconventional way here. Something I certainly didn't expect it to be the most exciting game, but I think the Raiders and Chargers game was the most exciting game, and the Chargers have kind of started a trend here of just waiting till literally the last play of the game to determine who wins. So I think that's what makes them so exciting. You have Justin Herbert, who I know you picked earlier in the season to not necessarily pick them, but I guess you thought that he was, I guess, more of a impact player than Joe Burrow right now. But he's
Rookie of the
exciting.
year, my friend. Rookie of the year.
He's exciting to watch. You got those big receivers out in Los Angeles. They have a pretty decent defense. The Raiders. I mean, I'm not a John Gruden fan, but the Raiders look good, and having beat the Chiefs earlier in the season, kind of taking all those factors together, and now the Raiders kind of keep rolling, and they'll meet with the Chiefs, I think, again in a few weeks. So, but that game was very exciting. Of course, there's some controversy at the end there, which after seeing the replay was pretty obvious that it wasn't a catch. But
Yeah,
well, it was controversy because they were all waving to get off the field before the refs could review it, and then you see Anthony Lynn standing there like he can't believe it. But that was obvious, right? But I mean, I don't know how the ref doesn't see that. That goes back to my gripe against refs this season. That dates back to my Giants trauma, from earlier. Let me have my moment.
The ref is down the line. The ref is down the line. He can't see the leg. We get to see the view from a million angles. So I'm not going to blame the ref. I think they do a great job in getting it right when they huddle up. They go to the replay. I think they do a great job. Nobody sees every angle from every area, so I'm not going to blame the ref on that call.
I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying the ball pops out. I'm just saying it just goes back to the refs not being able to make the call on the field and relying on replay. But in any event, they went back and forth the whole game for the most part. I don't think anyone would pick that ahead of time and put that as your Fox 5 NFL game of the week, right? No one would think to do that. But in this case, this week, it probably would have worked had it not been for the game, which I assume you're going to pick, which probably involves the team that's on your shirt right now.
No.
Miami Dolphins. Really?
I am not picking that one. The most intriguing game to me this week was honestly Panthers and Chiefs. Teddy Bridgewater, phenomenal game. Hanging in there. They should have won. They honestly should have won. They had that field goal at the end that they missed to tie it, go for the win. Go for the win, I think it was. But wow. McCaffrey fantasy, that's my fantasy team. So yeah, him coming back, he played so well. Curtis Samuel, I thought he was going to take a back seat once McCaffrey got in there. But no, he's playing damn well. But Bridgewater, that's wow. He's playing. Nobody thought he would play like he is in Carolina. If you thought you were, you're lying. You thought he'd be good, but not this good. Going into that. So we're after week 9. You and I both play fantasy football. We're in the same league. We're probably both in other leagues. I know I am. I'm sure you are. Who's your biggest fantasy surprise player so far this year?
Oh, we're going year. All right. Okay.
Come on, dude.
Yeah, it's a weekly recap. I don't know where your head's at, but I mean, I don't know how much of a surprise it should be because he was tops in the league last year, just didn't dominate like this. But I feel like Dalvin Cook has to be in that conversation. The dude is just an absolute beast. I didn't think he would be the number 1 running back in the league. I mean, he's leads the league in rushing touchdowns, leads the league in rushing yards. I know they played the Lions this past week, but when the dude sees a hole, it's over. It's done. You're not going to bring him down with arm tackles. I didn't realize how fast he was. And when you think about all this, and yes, he was good last year, but then you also think about the injury that he had earlier in his career. So you don't typically think that that's going to be something that he can consistently do year to year. And of course, he's still young, but the way he's playing on what looked like a bad Vikings team, which may now be a decent team who could
They're
squeak in the
winning that
wild card.
division. They are winning that division.
I don't know about
calling
that.
it right here, right now. They are winning that division.
You're out of your mind. That's just crazy talk.
I'm
The
calling
Packers
it.
would have to have a terrible, terrible meltdown.
I'm calling it.
Relax.
Relax. RELAX. Relax.
For real. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of a surprise that is, but I think the way he's dominating is surprising. And I've lost a couple times now because of Dalvin Cook. So what about you?
I'm going to say that you picking Dalvin Cook, who is a top 5 running back going into the season, now he's a top 1. That's a pretty basic pick. I got 2 people that I'm thinking about, right? So I picked DK Metcalf. Shout out to my team. Everybody, when I picked him, was like, he's the number 2 wide receiver. It's Lockett. Seattle runs the ball. They're not going to throw it. He's now the number 1 scoring wide receiver in a non-PPR league. I don't know about PPR leagues. I don't play PPR leagues. So everybody was like down on him. Yeah, I had faith. Like, I liked his size, his speed, everything, his work ethic. And yeah, Carroll's letting Russell throw the ball. So they have to, because their defense is garbage, like I mentioned earlier. But honestly, you mentioned him earlier. I would say the biggest surprise is Justin Herbert. I mean, he wasn't even a starter. He only got to be a starter because a trainer punctured the starter's lung. And he's had 3, 4 300-yard games. He's there every week. He's throwing the ball. He doesn't turn it over much. And he's actually the number 4 scoring QB. And he hasn't played every week. Like I said, he got in what was it, week 2, week 3, because somebody couldn't do a cortisone shot and punctured Taylor's lung. But hey, those are the 2 that I'm looking at. But DK Metcalf, I will be getting your jersey. I'm getting Brody and Russell Wilson. We'll do a little picture. We'll throw it up on the Sports Snobs website.
You mean not Russell Wilson? You mean Mr. Unlimited?
No. I do Russell Wilson. I don't do that BS. So let's go real quick to NCAA football. I don't know what week to call it because it depends on what league you're in. It might be week 1. It might be week 7. It might be week 12. But we were enjoying a few adult beverages after our softball doubleheader, and we were watching the Michigan game. How bad is Michigan, dude? Do you think they're done, or do you think it's just slow start?
No, they're done. They can't recover from this. If they were in another conference, maybe. But in the Big Ten, when you already have Ohio State, who's the favorite from the start, you have Indiana, who is undefeated, and they look like they belong in the top 25.
Top 10, dude.
Well, yeah. At the end of the season, I don't see them being in the top 10, but I certainly think they'll be top 25, which I said earlier in one of our episodes. But they're bad. They're terrible. I don't even know how to. It's not only them though. You have Penn State also. I'm not trying to change the topic, but it's so weird. I don't know what's going on in this conference. It's just kind of flipping. Ohio State staying there, of course, but then everything else is just I can't really explain it. Jim Harbaugh, dude, good luck to you. I don't see you having a job at Michigan after this year.
Go back to
Uh,
the khaki pants, my friend. The blue khakis, they're not working for you. You got to go back to the traditional khaki color pants, my friend.
Bad news for them, though. I mean, they're looking at finishing 3-5, maybe even 2-6. Their schedule is if Wisconsin can field the team this week. They have Wisconsin, which I don't see them beating Wisconsin. Although with
Rutgers,
COVID,
Rutgers beats them 11-21. Rutgers beats them. I'm calling it right now.
I I can't doubt it. I mean, they both look bad, so it's just going to be one of those games where it's kind of a toss up. Then you have Penn State, which I said is bad as well, but they kind of hung with Indiana, who's undefeated, and then you got Maryland, who they look like a new team, and then Ohio State, obviously. So you do the math. I'm seeing 3-5, 2-6 if they're lucky. What do you think?
Hey, that would win the NFC East. So, good for them. But no, Michigan's done. Um, Indiana, dude, I'm liking Indiana. They're going to give Ohio State a game. They really are. But Rutgers, I mean, yeah, they lost this week, but they put up 27. You would have never thought they would put up 27 in a Big Ten game against a ranked opponent like that until Shiano came back. So I don't mean to be a homer. Um, Rutgers is not my favorite college football team, but I like Shiano. I like what he's doing there. I like how they're going. And Rutgers beats Michigan, man. That's gonna be huge for recruiting. That's Michigan gets a lot of New Jersey players, and that could be huge. Um, but we were talking about Indiana. Do you really think Indiana has a chance against Ohio State? Are they a contender, or are they just getting lucky with their schedule?
I mean, you have to play the games that are on your schedule. They're playing them. They're they're winning them. They're I don't want to say dominating, but they look like a contender. But
Defense is strong, dude. Defense is strong.
yeah, and as the weather starts to change out in the Midwest, and I mean your defense can carry you far. The only question is, what are they going to do against Ohio State? Right? I don't know how you define contend. They may hang around for a quarter or two, but this Ohio State team, I mean, they don't look like they missed a step. They look like they've been playing, I don't know, 8 or 9 games this season. Um, they're they are dominating. Yes, they've beaten some lesser teams, and it looks like it's a lesser conference for the most part. But I'd say yes, they're a contender. But will they beat Ohio State? I find that hard to believe.
So 11-21, Indiana plays Ohio State. Rutgers plays Michigan. I'm doing that parlay of Rutgers, Indiana, man. I know this ain't the pick show, but I'm doing it. And, the Turkey Day will be even better because I'll have a few more dollars in my pocket. So, Notre Dame and Clemson. Notre Dame held off Clemson, um, double overtime. They were without Lawrence, obviously. Um, what were your thoughts on that game? Like everybody's now propping up Notre Dame, but do you think that that's really a signature win without Lawrence there?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's definitely a signature win. Brian Kelly has yet to have a win like that in his career at Notre Dame. I don't think he's ever beaten a top five ranked team. And then the two times that they were in the college football playoff, or I forget, I don't know if it was really the college football playoff the first time, but they got handled by Alabama, and then they got destroyed by Clemson. So this is a big win for their program. Of course, it's different because Trevor Lawrence didn't play, but I still think that Clemson team, I mean, they were still favored. When you look at all the lines, they were still favored. All the experts picked Clemson. I mean, I don't think anybody still expected them to win. And it came down to the wire. It looked a little sloppy at times, a lot of scoring, some bad defense, which you don't typically see from either of these teams. But it's definitely a signature win. I watched almost every second of that game, even the overtimes. I did place a little friendly wager on it. I did hit. I picked Notre Dame to win outright. Just saying, I had a little bit more luck with college than I did with the NFL, but we'll save that for later this week. But I will say if they do face each other again,
If you won one game in college, you're pretty much winning. But whatever.
yeah, yeah,
We'll
yeah,
talk about that. We'll talk about that Saturday.
we will. But I will say if they do end up facing Clemson again in the ACC championship, which I envision they will, I don't think they'll beat them twice. So I think Trevor Lawrence in that game is a huge impact. So I'll let them enjoy it. I think it's a signature win, but don't enjoy it for too long because I don't think it's gonna happen again later this year.
I'm very shocked that they did not get boosted up to the number one position and they got number two rank. Alabama got number one. I was very shocked on that. But what I'm waiting for is all the COVID tests to come back because everybody rushed the field. I didn't see a single mask on anybody. I'm just waiting for Notre Dame to have to shut it down because they got 20 something players that have the COVID. But
did you see there was an interview with Brian Kelly? He said that before the game, he told his team, he said, when we win, you have to get off the field as fast as possible because they're going to rush the field. So I don't even know if any players were on the field.
I did not see that, but I doubt the players got off the field that quick. But neither here nor there. So here's a surprising one. Have you ever heard of this Liberty University? Like
I've heard of Liberty Mutual Insurance with the commercial with the ostrich.
yeah,
I've heard of Lady Liberty, like the Statue of Liberty. I haven't heard of this other Liberty University. Can you tell me a little bit about them?
they're ranked in the top 25 and they just beat Virginia Tech. Um I don't know if you saw the game. It was a crazy finish. Virginia Tech is known for their special teams and Liberty was down, I want to say 1-2, whatever it was. They were going for a field goal. Gets blocked by Virginia Tech. They are known for that. Like Frank Beamer, he's not there anymore, but Virginia Tech is known for those special team plays. But it got blocked, returned for a touchdown. But hold on a second. Virginia Tech called a timeout, tried to ice the kicker. So now there's like 8 seconds left. And Liberty throws a 6-yard pass over the middle, takes a timeout, rolls out their kicker. Lo and behold, bang, field goal, they win it. And they're an independent. They don't have a conference. I want to say they're 8-0, 7-0, or something like that. But they play Coastal Carolina, who is another school who nobody would have heard of before this year. That's playing damn well. But yeah, it's Liberty. God, like I would think like, oh, Liberty makes the 68th team in the March Madness tournament, not their top 25 in NCAA football. So it's fun to watch that. I mean, but so on to that, Pat, do you see any teams outside of the Power Five conferences that could sneak into the college playoff?
I don't think so. I don't think it's ever going to happen with only 4 teams in the college playoff. Do I think it should? I think there should be some sort of, I guess, rules in place for how they judge teams because I mean we've seen 2 lost teams get in over undefeated teams, and I get strength of schedule. I totally understand it. It's not fair. If you compared Liberty's schedule to Clemson or Notre Dame, I'm sure it's far more difficult for the Power 5 teams, right? but there's got to be something. There's got to be an expansion. That's really the only way about it, because it's not fair to these teams who play in these lesser conferences or independent, for example, and they can only play the teams that they can agree with, like make the agreement with to play. I mean, they can't really. You can go out and grab a difficult opponent here and there, but it's tough with the interconference scheduling for those other conferences. But
well, this year you really don't have outside your conference. You don't really have that this year. So if any year I can see somebody outside the Power Five, it's this year, because you won't have those common opponents. You won't have any of that. So I honestly think that a BYU and possibly Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a sleeper, dude. They might be able to sneak in there, because say Notre Dame wins again against Clemson in the ACC. You're only getting one ACC team. We talk Big Ten. Unless Indiana does what I think they're going to do, it's Ohio State, and that's all. So the SEC, I mean, it's Alabama. That's it. Georgia isn't doing well. LSU, normal contender. They're not doing well. Big 12, horrible. Pac-12, they've had 1 week. We don't know. So I can see a BYU or a Cincinnati, somebody like that sneaking in. I really can. This year over other years, because again, it's not the strength of schedule. Now you're only doing conference games for the most part.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if any year, why not this year? I agree with you there, but there's only 4 teams. It's just it doesn't matter. Like Cincinnati, you say is a sleeper. I think they're ranked like 6th right now, so I don't know how much of a sleeper they are at this point. So they can definitely make it in. But I mean, you forgot to mention Florida, who just beat Georgia pretty easily. I mean, it was competitive for the first half of the game, but then they kind of ran away, and the score looked closer than the game actually was. So I don't know if you see Alabama and Florida get in, and then you have Ohio State, and then Notre Dame. I mean, I don't see how you're going to take an undefeated independent team over a 1-loss Power 5, even a 2-loss, depending on who the team is. Like if it's Clemson,
not independent, they're Atlantic.
Well, I'm just saying for the BYU. I mean, BYU is looking. I mean, I had them down as the team that would be the sleeper to make it from outside of a Power 5. Being that they're 8-0, they're in the top 25. They're ranked 8th. They score 45 points per game. They only allow 14. All their games are fun to watch. They're a very physical team. But I just don't think it's gonna until they expand the playoff. It's just not going to happen.
All right. So, getting off of football, and it's very weird to talk about this because the Masters, normally in April, is now in November. So, no more azaleas and nice flowery bushes. We're now talking colored leaves on the trees. What are your thoughts on the Masters? Do you have a favorite, a long shot? What do you got going on?
Well, it's going to be weird. I don't know how the golfers will respond to a 5-month swing in kind of temperature or seasons, whatever you want to call it. But it's going to be different, obviously. I mean, they play in this weather in other locations. It's not like it's something that's never happened before. It's just weird that it's the Masters. And there's also not going to be any fans there, which they've been dealing with throughout the other courses. But I think this is just different. Favorites, I would say, had it not been for his recent COVID concerns, or he had COVID, Dustin Johnson, I would have picked Dustin Johnson as one of my favorites to win. But I don't know how the COVID affects him. I don't know if he's going to be the same golfer. It wasn't too long ago. I think he's coming like a few weeks off of the actual diagnosis. So how far removed are you from those symptoms of it? I don't know what the symptoms are for everybody. It might vary. So who knows? Who knows how that can affect him? I wouldn't be shocked if he was up there at the end, but I think my I think my favorite to my pick would be Brooks Koepka. He tied for second last year. He's improved every single year. I think he's a top 10 golfer. I think he hangs around. I just like his game. I don't know. I will say I can't stand what's his name, Bryson DeChambeau. I can't stand that guy, so I hope he doesn't win. I think he's using like a 48-inch driver or something. I don't know what he's doing. What do you think?
Uh, I honestly, I have Dustin Johnson.
Really?
Yeah, the COVID, yeah, everything, but he's just a solid player. My kind of long shot is Louis Oosthuizen. Uh, Random fact: I met Louis Oosthuizen's cousin when I was on a business trip in Johannesburg. So kind of know the dude. Not really. I just know his cousin, but I like his game too, and he always plays well in championships in the majors. Um, my hot take: Tiger doesn't even make the cut. He will not make the cut. Put a bet on that. This ain't the pick show, but put a bet on that.
I don't know if that's a hot take. I've seen several people say that. I mean, the Tiger is just yeah, he won last year, but he won it in April. And when's the last time he's won back to back Masters? Not in this era of Tiger. I'm
2000,
over it.
he went 2001, 2002. He won back to back.
Well, there you go. 17, 18 years ago. So yeah, I wouldn't. I would take the same bet. I would not be surprised if he didn't make the cut. I wouldn't. Not at all.
So, last thing that we're going to talk about is anybody who's squeamish, please, you can fast forward to the end. But yeah, they're UFC. I'm a big UFC guy. Pat, not so much. I'm going to admit I did not watch the UFC fights this weekend, but I saw the highlights, and wow, there was a pretty gruesome injury, and I've seen some injuries before. I've seen guys with the cauliflower ear where it burst. I've seen Anderson Silva get his leg checked by Weidman and it snapped in half. Seen some ugly things, but this one was pretty bad. This was an undercard fight between a gentleman named Griffin and Brahimaj. I believe I'm saying that right. But we got the clip, so let's throw it out there. Love it, Mike. Look at that elbow, right? Oh my god, that dude's ear. That dude's, and I was kind. I picked one of the nicer videos. There are more ugly videos out there, but I don't want to scare. I mean, your wife's pregnant. I don't want her throwing up and whatnot more than the morning sickness she has. But oh my god, the dude's ear. He went back to the corner. I think it fell off in the towel. Like that was ridiculous. And I don't know if you saw, like the next day, he did a press conference and he's like, it's a skin wound. I'm like, no, your ear fell off, dude.
He didn't even know. He didn't even know what was going on. I mean,
No.
he was just like, oh no, this is just a typical, the typical ear injury, and he was ready to just keep going. And I was just, I don't know if there's just that much adrenaline, or if at that point in your career you can't even feel your ear. I don't know. Probably the latter to some extent, right? But oh man, that was something else. That was just
Dude, how about this?
repulsive.
How about this Saturday before a softball game? Let me throw a couple elbows and see if it's you can't feel it
Yeah,
or whatever. We'll
yeah,
do a little scientific experiment. How about that?
yeah. That sounds great. Yeah, I trust you to do that. Yeah, why not?
Awesome. Well, everyone, that's the close of the show. I want to thank everybody that does listen. Again, follow, like us, subscribe, do everything. We're trying to do some big things. I got somebody that might be doing an intro song, outro song for us. We might be getting guests that are pretty cool. Not ready to announce it. We're trying to work on some things, but the more you like us, the more you follow us, the more you subscribe, the better we can do that. And hopefully you like it. And don't forget, we got the Saturday pick show, and not to ruin it, but what alcohol are you picking for the shot, Pat?
Oh, too many choices. Probably some sort of whiskey.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and Pat, anything to close out?
Nothing to close out. Just stay tuned for our picks. I let you guys down last week. I'll be better this week. That's
Hey,
all.
if you want to win money, come with me. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
And we'll announce our charity as well on Saturday's podcast.
That we
So
will.
help us out if you can, and let's go from there. Thank you, everyone.
See you.